good morning, good afternoon, depending on where it is that you are tuned in from. Welcome to another episode of the EQ Lunch and Learn. My name is Mucha Mlingo, and I am your host for this episode. I'm really delighted to have you here. As we say in this program, I hope that you have the lunch. We are definitely going to be bringing the learning. Our theme today is a celebration. We are celebrating International Women's Day, which was earlier this month. And as part of our celebrations, we will be recognizing the journey of the evolving career woman and the transformative impact of mentorship. I know for a fact that I am where I am because of the mentors who have paved the way for me. In a world where women's advancement is crucial for societal progress, I believe in the power of investing in women to drive exponential growth and innovation. And mentorship goes a long way in ensuring that women take up those places and spaces that they need to. The International Women's Day theme for this year was Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. Mentorship accelerates career advancement by providing access to opportunities, networks, and resources that may otherwise be inaccessible. In this EQ Lunch and Learn episode, we're looking to have an interactive session designed to learn from some phenomenal women who are charting their course and hear about their experience of mentorship and also their experience as mentors. As always, I have a fabulous panel who are going to help me unpack the power of mentorship, and I'm going to bring them on one at a time. Let me start with Eunice Ongele, an astute and highly skilled business and marketing executive with extensive experience in business development, product marketing, brand management, regional share expansion, and market preparation penetration, in both B2B and B2C environments. She is a strategic leader with expertise managing varied high performance teams in high stakes settings across the region. I'm really excited to have Eunice here with us and looking forward to learning from her. Eunice, say hi to us as we kick off our program today.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me here, Mucha. Looking forward to it.
Fan- Fantastic. Looking forward to hearing from you too. If you want to connect more with Eunice, you can find her on LinkedIn, and we have shared the link to connect with her. Next up, I want to bring up Lucy. Lucy Jonga is a conscious leadership expert with a bias in finance, operations, and strategy. She has over 14 years of progressive experience. Her career has spanned various key roles, including that of a country manager with one of the top renewable energy ventures in Africa, which is where I first met Lucy. She
Yeah.
currently works as the finance director for an SME impact fund. As always, my panelists, Eunice included, have very long bios. So what I will say is if you want to learn more about Lucy, you can connect with her on LinkedIn. Lucy, can you say hello to us?
Hi, Mucha. Hi, Eunice. I'm happy to be here today and I'm looking forward to the sessions. I just can't wait to get it going. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much, Lucy. Last but not least, I have with us Joyce Oginde. Joyce is joining us, and I will tell you a bit more about Joyce. Joyce is a determined individual on a mission. She has a background in economics and experience in both banking and the donor space. She specializes in developing strategies and assessing needs related to sustainable finance. She currently serves as a climate finance advisor for USAID CUSA. I again encourage you to connect with Joyce on LinkedIn if you want to learn more about her. So it looks like Joyce is having some technical challenges, but I have introduced her. And when she is able to join us again, she will join in on the conversation. For now, if you want to connect with Joyce, you can find her on LinkedIn. So, ladies, thanks again for honoring our invitation. We're celebrating women and we're talking about mentorship today and the power that mentorship has in helping women to achieve. Um, mentorship is often touted, excuse me, mentorship is often touted as a critical component for professional development. Can you share, and I'm going to ask both of you this question, to share a defining moment when mentorship played a pivotal role in your journey, in your respective field? And since I brought you on first, Eunice, we can start with you. Just share how, yeah, mentorship impacted you in a special way. Yes, thank you.
All right. Um, I will start with, I look at it in the career perspective. So mentorship started a little bit later on in my career, and I wish
Uh-huh.
had actually started earlier. I think I would have been even further than where I am right now. And at one point, I felt like I was a bit stuck. I was not moving to the direction that I wanted to go, and at that point, I made a decision to actually now look out there and see what else I can be able to do. And that's how actually my mentoring career started. And how I started quite low. I started by observing some of the role models that I wanted to emulate, people that I wanted to grow into their spaces, and started following how they were doing the things, what professional accreditation they had, and that paved my way into that area. Now, recently, I've made it even more formal, more intentional, and now I'm having one-on-one mentorship sessions with different people, basically on different groups, and that has really, really had a very profound effect on my career journey and a leader, basically. Really
Mm,
unpacked so many things that initially had not really thought. So for me, mentorship is the way to go, and we can start at any point. I think I started late, but look at me. I'm really happy where I am, and I'm still growing within that space.
fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. Joyce, I'll come to you. I'm asking the question to really share a defining moment where mentorship played a pivotal moment in your career. And we're also inviting those who are with us online to do the same. Share with us what mentorship has done for you. Lucy, we can come to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Mucha. So mine is similar to the experience just shared by Eunice, in the sense that it's also in the professional light and career development. So I recall some years back when I transitioned into a different role, and in the sense that one, it was out of my typical career path. If I can share more detail, is my career background is in
Hmm.
finance.
Hmm.
When you look at my degree, if you look at my professional qualifications, and even how I started out my career back some 15 years ago, it was all accounting and finance driven. And then, secondly, the expectation of this particular role that I transitioned into, there was a requirement for me to lead an entire country. So, this is someone who's coming from leading only a function and then taking over a new role that requires you to lead an entire country, very operational, and then you're looking at hundreds of people under you. So as much as at that point I was fully, sort of like aware of my capabilities, it was really a new experience altogether. And you start asking yourself, what else can you do differently? What more can you do? Because again, you still want to succeed. And also, again, being a woman, you're looking at an example probably that you're trying to set, outside there for other women who probably you're leading and managing at that point. So it got me thinking, and during that sort of like trying to figure out what next, that's when I started my mentorship journey. And for me, I was very intentional in the sense that I didn't want to only focus on mentors who've succeeded before. I wanted to be able to have a feel or taste of both sides of the coin. Those who've succeeded and those who have not succeeded but can be able to share with you, useful insights and experiences. So kind of that is how I started the journey. And truth be told,
Mm,
fast forward now to the present day, when I look back, that was the best decisions I made. And I noticed that mentorship also evolves with time. You know, as you're starting out, sort of like you're looking for different needs from a mentor. And then as you continue to progress, probably a new need comes in altogether. So, kind of like that has been my mentorship journey all through the while. And for sure, I can say that. That decision that I took back then when I was transitioning into a new role was only the starting point of a lifelong mentorship, approach for me. And it still continued to come in handy even a couple of years later when I've long moved from that particular role to another one. I still find mentorship coming in handy, in the different areas of life. And for me, seeking mentorship doesn't mean you're lacking, but it just goes to affirm that you're self-aware and you have the commitment towards your evolving process. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you very much, Lucy. I something you both said, Eunice and Lucy, speaks to the intentionality of seeking mentors. So being intentional about seeking the mentors, being intentional about cultivating the relationship with the mentors. And I like what you just said there, Lucy, about how mentorship doesn't mean you're lacking, right? It's not saying that you have an issue. It's just really understanding that in order to get to where you want to go, it's useful to get support from others. So I really like that. Joyce, I hope we'll be able to hear you now. I can see you've moved to your phone. I guess you're having issues with your laptop. So, Joyce, we're talking about mentorship. And the question I asked was, to share a defining moment when mentorship played a pivotal moment in your career. I hope you'll be able to share. You just need to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies again for the network hiccups. But I've had just a bit of what has been said by Lucy and a few things from Eunice. I think what mentorship has done for me is it has really increased my confidence. Really, I'd say that it's very comforting when you share your ideas and your thoughts with someone, and then you realize that they were not as crazy as you thought they were, or you're not really on your
Yeah.
own with a
Yeah.
new idea or a concept. You also learn that those who've gone before you also had crazy ideas and crazy concepts that have materialized. And so it's a very comforting and rewarding journey in that sense. I think also, just to touch on something that you've said, Mocha, is that for me, mentorship has also shown me that failure is part of the human, process. It doesn't mean that I lack something. It doesn't mean that I am so different or so out of depth, but um, that there are aspects of this journey of self growth, of career growth, that are very normal, that everyone experiences, even those we look up to, even those we admire. And so it really affirms the journey, it really affirms your thought process. And it helps you paint a picture that is not perfect, but it's very maybe unique to you and unique to your process, and so you appreciate it so much. So yes, I think that's a very brief way I can respond to that. Yeah.
Do you
You're on mute.
unmute?
I
Yeah,
realized
yeah,
I was muted. I
yeah.
realized I was muted. So I really like what you said, Joyce, around engaging with mentors also helps you to realize or understand that you're just normal, right? And some of the things that you're going through are things that the women you look up to have also gone through. They are normal experiences. There's power in having that validation that actually what you're thinking is maybe a crisis is actually just very normal. So I like that. I think that's a really great point. So thank you to all of you for sharing that initial reflection around mentorship. And Joyce, let me stay with you and ask now specifically, how has it impacted your personal and professional growth? how has mentorship actually impacted you? What is the impact that you see that you can attribute to mentorship? So you talked about increasing confidence. How has that helped you in your career, for example?
Looking back on my career, which is not like incredibly advanced, but advanced in its own way, I think outside of the perspective aspect and the bouncing of ideas, I think mentorship has really saved me on time by incorporating some perspectives and experiences of those who've gone before me. I can apply their success tips and tricks, and it really saves you on those rookie moves and the consequences that could follow those rookie experiences. And it could actually push you two steps forward of your peers, of the people you joined the market with. And so saving me on time, if we can quantify the time taken to make mistakes and recover and find your path, I think that's one thing that mentorship has really saved me on. So it's propelled me in more ways than one. And yes, yeah, the time aspect.
I like that. I like that. So when we learn from the mistakes of others, it saves us from having to make those mistakes. And that ultimately means that we save on time. And actually, time is one of the most valuable resources that we have. And where we can save on time, it really goes a long way. So thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. Um, Lucy, if I come to you, you talked about the fact that for you, mentorship became something that you focused on when you transitioned to leading an organization. What was the impact as far as your professional growth is concerned, and even your personal growth when you had this mentor? So what were some of the tangible benefits of having a mentor as you transition to this role, and then obviously since you've left?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Mucha. So if you recall, I talked of mentorship evolving over time,
Hmm.
because also as you continue to grow as
Hmm.
an individual, your needs continue to evolve. So when I was starting out, I really wanted to be able to break, some imposter syndrome. And probably just going back to what also Joyce mentioned, is how do you show out and show up, full of confidence. And then as a leader, you also need to inspire that, because you're also looking at other younger women, a professional in that sense, who are also emulating from what they're seeing you do. So you have to also carry yourself in a certain manner. So for me, mentorship really played a big role in building my confidence and really helping to break that imposter syndrome. Those elemental situations where you ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? And you're trying to figure out who else has done it, just to get that reaffirmation and reassurance that you're on the right track, on the right path. Because most of the times we're aware of our capabilities, but you still need someone to give you sort of like that pat on the back, to just tell you that you're on the right path. You go, girl. So for me, mentorship,
Yeah.
that is what it did. And then also being able to just lead multiple teams, diverse cultures, diverse backgrounds. You also have men that you're supposed, to sort of like be leading as well. And we all know, like, women in the career world, you definitely need to put in a lot more effort to just be able to put your mark out there. So mentorship for me also really played a big deal in understanding how to manage teams better. And even at some point, it really helped with my EQ. And I'm really happy that probably will be tackling something in relation to that later on
Yeah.
during this particular session. But that really helped me a lot. And in the sense that probably this is career related, professional development related, but also if you look at it from a personal perspective, introspectively, me, being able to have my confidence up there meant that I was also able to show out on other personal engagements in a different level as well. And at some point, I got to a point where I started looking for mentors who can even be able to share with other sort of like personal related a level. So talk of spirituality, talk of how you sort of like spend time with your family, talk of even investment financing decisions. So it sort of like evolved from just a small sort of like minute need to be able to show out in my place of work to something all, inclusive and holistic. So I'd say for me, those have been the most relevant, impactful moments with mentorship. And as I continue to evolve as a person, I'm sure there's going to be another evolving need, coming up along the way. And I'll definitely still be open to mentorship as I'm navigating that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. I really like that. And I like what you said about how the need evolves and the mentors you have evolved. And I like what you said. It's like a ripple. So it started as something simple, small, well, maybe not simple, but something smaller, or a small facet of your life that required that support, but it now then spilled out to the different facets of your life. Eunice, I saw you nodding your head quite a bit when Lucy was sharing. Do you want to, before I come to, excuse me, a question for you, do you want to weigh in on that question?
Yes, just to add on to the evolving bit of it. And for me, I look at mentorship in different facets. There is the people who came before you and have navigated the path that you're trying to follow. That those who are at the same level they do the peer mentoring. I think that is also another profound way of learning, because they're now in that journey. They have real life experience at that particular time that they are trying to tackle. So that's a very, very important aspect also to look at. And there's also reverse mentorship. The guys who are junior, they could be junior in age, it could be junior in position, or whatever, because these people they come in with so much knowledge, especially at their level in terms of age. And it also enables you as a leader to evolve at the workplace, because you are now able to tap into how they reason, how they behave, how they do what they do. And it makes you become more empathetic to them and have a more listening ear and more understanding, for lack of a better word. So for me, I look at it in all those spectrum, and yes, it's always evolving.
I love that point you brought around reverse mentorship. I think that's so crucial because those who are maybe younger in age or maybe younger in their career journey do have a very different perspective and a way of looking at things that can be useful for you as an individual. So that's really powerful. And I see we have Tessie here with us. Tessie, thank you for joining us. Tessie is a former panelist, and Tessie says, I've been privileged to have a sounding board, my mentors, mentees who consistently challenge me to stay focused and resilient through my journey. And so mentorship is something that really does support us. Eunice, I want to stay with you and take the conversation a little broader. So, looking at leading teams, you're a leader of teams. Um, how can mentorship contribute to talent development and retention? Excuse me, I have a really bad cold today,
Sorry.
And you're
especially for
breaking
young
too.
women.
You're breaking. Just repeat the
Oh,
question again, kindly. Sorry.
oh, goodness.
It's one of those days.
I've got a coughing fit all of a sudden. So I hope I'm clearer. Can you hear me better now,
Okay.
Eunice?
Yeah.
Okay. So how can mentorship programs contribute to talent development and retention, especially for young professional women?
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I don't know.
I
You're
can
all
hear you.
frozen. I don't.
Eunice, can you not hear me? All right, so I think Eunice, maybe it's on her side. Can you guys hear me? Lucy, Joyce, can you guys
Yeah.
hear me
Yeah, we
okay?
can hear you. Yeah, we
All
can
Yes,
right,
hear
so I
you.
think
Okay.
it's
yes,
on Eunice's.
I
All
can
right,
hear
so
you.
it's on Eunice's end. All right, no worries. She'll be back and we'll come back to her. So,
Okay.
Lucy, let me come back to you.
Sure.
Woo, I have a really bad cold. And I was hoping that I wouldn't have a coughing fit in the middle of the, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So let me come to you, Lucy. You
Yeah.
started talking about this idea of emotional intelligence. So let's go there. Mentorship
Yeah.
is built on the foundation of relationships. So, what part does
Yes.
emotional intelligence play in mentorship for the mentee and for the mentor?
Um, very interesting and beautiful question. Um, um, I'd say I'd look at emotional intelligence from four perspectives, and I start from the ability to be self-aware and self-management. Then I look at social awareness and relationship management. And first of all, when you seeking mentorship as a mentee, you definitely need to be self-aware of the need and the potential. And in the same breath as a mentor, you also need to understand and acknowledge what you bring into the table in reference to what the mentee requires at this particular point. And um, so being self-aware is very key for both parties. And also, how do you manage yourself as you navigate the roles that you both play in this relationship? Because again, if I look at what a relationship is, it's in this particular context, is the way that the mentor and the mentee are sort of like have established a connection, and the need at this point is the goal for whatever that mentorship need is. And at this point, I believe both the mentor and the mentee are in a give and receive type of relationship. So for it to be a successful relationship in this sense, EQ, emotional intelligence, is a very key ingredient. So how do you level out so that you're both intentional with being able to give and to receive for the benefit of all? And through a self-awareness, management, and also social awareness through the entire building process. So EQ comes in to really bring a balance as you're establishing this relationship for it to be able to progress into something else, which is going to be fruitful to both the two parties.
I like that, and I like the fact that you brought out, self awareness as really critical. I'm a firm believer in the power of self awareness, right? I really do believe
Yeah.
that as we understand ourselves better, we are more likely to be able to achieve the goals that we set for ourselves because often we are what stands in our way. Earlier, you talked about imposter syndrome, for example,
Yeah.
and recognizing that, okay, I have possibly some imposter syndrome, it's
Yeah.
self-awareness that helps you to recognize that, right? And I need a mentor who can support me and remind me that I'm not an imposter, that I am, more than capable for this particular role. And so for me, I believe self-awareness really is the beginning of that EQ journey. Eunice, we're happy to have you back. It looks like you
Yeah.
had lost connection at some point and you could not hear me. So I was talking to Lucy and asking her about emotional intelligence and how important that is, both from the perspective of the mentor and the mentee. And before I come back to the question I'd asked you, I'd love to hear your thoughts around EQ and how
Thank you. I hope you
important
can
it
hear
is.
me.
Yes,
Yeah.
loud
I
and
can hear
clear.
you. Yeah.
Eunice, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Seems like there's an issue still, Eunice.
Yeah.
We can hear you, but it seems like there's an issue on your side still. Um, Joyce, would you like to chime in on EQ? Let me see if I can connect to Eunice. What impact does EQ have? And let's focus on the mentee, right? So why is emotional intelligence important for a mentee? Joyce, your thoughts.
All right. I think Lucy has shared quite a
Okay.
bit, which I agree with. I think perhaps what I can add is that emotional intelligence will also tell you where you need to go out of your comfort zone. I think many times as
Okay.
individuals, we want to interact with people who, there's some sort of similarity in one aspect or another. There's some sort of familiarity, but the knowing that you need a guidance that will help you step out of your comfort zone and into a place of, forging new ideas and strategies where there was none. It actually takes a level of self-awareness that will tell you, okay, what we know is not enough, so let's find something different and let's create identity and a path where there's no previous knowledge, no previous understanding. So yeah, the role of EQ is it's not just in the familiar, but it really allows you to step into places that would otherwise be completely new and unfamiliar. Yeah.
I love that. I love what you said about what we know is not enough. What
Yeah.
a powerful statement that is, right? What we know is not enough. And indeed, it's not enough. At least it's not enough to get us where we want to go, right? If we want to stay where we are, then perhaps it's enough for staying where we are. But if we do want to get to where we want to go, then it definitely isn't enough. And I like what you said about how EQ helps you by bringing that self-awareness that there's more that I could know. And to know this more, I may need to get the support of others. Thank you, Joyce. That was really, really great. Eunice, all right, so we're trying again. Hopefully
Yes. Hope
you can
now we
hear.
stay on. Frustrating.
Finally.
It's so frustrating.
Technology can be a real pain.
Uh, So I hope I'm not repeating myself, but I'll just chime in and just give
Go
what
ahead.
I'd
Go
prepared
ahead.
on this question. So I know you've talked about the self-awareness bit, and there's also openness.
Mm,
So when you have a high EQ, you're
mm,
actually open to feedback. You
right.
are more prepared to accept constructive feedback that is not a criticism. It's more of giving you another perspective to look at things. So for me, that comes in for both the mentor and the mentee. Mentee,
Mm,
especially because now here you're seeking some guidance on how to navigate maybe a path that you're not quite sure of. So having that open
yeah.
mind that the feedback will come in and will help you in navigating that, whatever you're going through. So there is that, and there's also active listening. When you have also high IQ, you're able to actively listen, both on both sides, if you asked me. Um, on the mentee side, to be able to absorb what you're getting from the mentors. And like I told you, mentors are on different levels. So what can you be able to absorb from this information that they're giving you that can help you grow within that space? On the other side, when it comes to the mentors, active listening for them, nonverbal and verbal cues can also help you know whether you are going or meeting the needs or the objectives or the goals that this mentee is trying to get from you, especially if it's one of those formal ones where you really need to guide someone. You can quickly tell by their body language and how they are receiving your information, whether it's working for them or not. And it can also make you now switch maybe to a more palatable, if not a better word, way of delivering the information. And lastly, empathy. When you
Mm,
have a high IQ, you're able to empathize with the situation because different people go through different journeys, and one journey is not similar to the next. So when you have that empathy in you, you're able to internalize and see how you can give feedback both sides again without really hurting the other person and knowing how to deliver that feedback. So I think those are the
mm,
areas also that one should be able to look at as you're
yeah.
looking at AQ. And that really, really helps when it starts from the self-awareness, like you said. It really, really
Yeah.
helps you in now incorporating these other elements that makes you a great mentee and a mentor in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. And the idea of the power of empathy is really, really important because as you're mentoring someone, now thinking about it from the mentor perspective, they may be going through stuff that you haven't navigated, but when you are high in empathy, it helps you to be able to meet them where they are. And I like your point, Eunice, that you can give feedback in a way that it is more likely to be received positively. And then I guess from the mentee perspective, being open to feedback, right? Because the whole idea of a mentor is you do want someone who can really tell you as it is, right? And not going to um they're going to be honest enough with you about maybe where some changes need to be made. And so being open to receiving that feedback is really critical. Thank you very much. So to those who are with us today, please say hello so that we can say hello back. And if you have any questions, we'll be coming up to our Q&A shortly where you can ask my awesome panelists any questions that you have. If you have a question for a specific panelist, you're welcome to ask that question. And if you have a question that's general, you're welcome to ask a general question. So we're talking about EQ and mentorship and how EQ is critical both from the part of the mentee and from the part of the mentor because it helps us to have better relationships. Now, Joyce, I was just thinking that this mentor mentee relationship involves sharing personal experiences and vulnerabilities. So, how do you balance between being professional and being authentic? I just and here we're talking about that mentor relationship that is for your professional side, right? So you have a mentor who you have reached out to from a professional perspective. You want them to support you in your professional development. How do you balance between being real and authentic and at the same time being professional? Or is being professional not important when you are in a mentee relationship? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, that's a very good question. Sorry, there's quite a bit of noise around me. Can you hear me?
No worries.
You can hear
Yes, we
me?
can hear you.
All right.
Yes.
I think that's a very good question, and it really speaks to setting the boundary for your engagement. But I'd like to say any experience you have, whether in the workplace or in your personal life, it affects you both professionally and from a personal perspective. And that is why when you're engaging with someone, they will not only tell you about maybe the situation they encountered, but they will also go ahead to describe how it made them feel and how it made them react, and the lessons with which they derived from that particular engagement or just a situation that happened. And so I would like to say that you limit your how it made you feel and how it made you think about life and about people or about that kind of situation to uh, you know within the boundaries of maybe the situation that has occurred. But it's easier said than done, yeah. And so I think it's on to the mentor also to guide the conversation in a way that allows the mentee to respond appropriately and provide also the emotional and the personal aspect that is necessary in responding to such a situation. So there is a guidance that is offered from the mentor's perspective that will allow the mentee to respond to very specific aspects. Also, I think with mentorship, especially for a first timer or someone who's new with interacting with other people, a mentor can provide a safe space, but respond to only what is
Mm,
necessary. That way, with time, a
right.
mentee learns how such an engagement, would work, and they will learn to bring up, the most appropriate or the most necessary aspects of the information they're sharing. So yeah, it is a learned. I think it's a learned thing over time. It's not something that you may, get from the get go. You may share everything all at once on day one, but then after like some time, you will be able to filter out and know what is necessary for this kind of engagement. So it's a two-way process. Yeah. Mm. I hope the noise was not
Fantastic.
too
Thank
bad.
you. Don't worry about it. We can hear you. As I was saying backstage before we joined, this is a comfortable conversation amongst friends. It's not formal, so we'll take you as you are because you're dropping some great insights. I like what you said around the mentor uh, providing some boundaries, and I'd like to imagine that the mentee too, right? So if the mentee feels that this is now straying into territory that is maybe not so comfortable, and the mentee can also draw those boundaries, which then means, Joyce, what you're saying, or what I'm hearing you say is, in this mentor mentorship relationship, we actually need to have a conversation about those boundaries, about what it is that we're trying to achieve. So it's not just a casual conversation. We actually, agree that, right, this is what our mentorship journey is going to look like. And that includes setting those boundaries, whatever those boundaries are. And I think when we do that, we're then being more intentional about getting what we want out of this mentorship relationship. So thank you very much for sharing that, because I think, at the end of the day, you do want to be real about what you're going through, but it has to be within the realms of being professional. Um, Lucy and Eunice, I want to talk a little bit about mentorship now from a workplace perspective, right? And thinking about this as leaders in your various organizations, and just thinking about how mentorship can support teams. So, Eunice, let me come to you first, and then Lucy, I'll come to you with a maybe similar question. But how, Eunice, can mentorship programs contribute to talent development and to retention, especially for young professional women? As we celebrate International Women's Day, we're looking at the growth of women, right? We're looking at how we can support women to grow in their careers. So, how can mentorship help? Thinking about this now from an organizational perspective and thinking about this as a leader of the teams that you lead. Eunice, just unmute yourself.
All right. So mentorship in the workplace. Today is one of those days. Mentorship in the workplace takes different facets. So you'll find organizations that have a very formal way of doing a mentorship, especially when it comes to the talent pool and how to grow the team within that talent pool. And some also can also come directly from your leaders within the organization. So depending on which aspect you'll take, I think the end game is still the same. How do you now grow these ladies into the career path that they need to go in? So it also needs to be very intentional from the organization perspective, and also as leaders within the organization, bring the ladies within that space where they are ready to, to be given some form of mentorship. It also needs to be very intentional from the people seeking this mentorship, because you find that if one is not ready to take up that trajectory, it will be very, very hard to mold them. So it needs one who is prepared to be in that space to be able to be grown. So organization that really takes mentorship as the four really retains, I believe, would retain more. And the younger people are more agile. I remember over the weekend I was having a meeting with my book club, and we have different ages in that book club. We have people who are my age, some who are younger, and the younger people perspective of the workplace has really, really changed. We looked very archaic as we're talking to them. In
Can you
terms of the
share more,
thing,
please?
in terms of what we look at in an organization, for us, for my age set, we look for a stable organization, an organization that perhaps might give you, the medical cover, the normal things that some of our age, and we're also looking at retirement, so you're looking at that plan. For them, that is not part of their plan. So if you're packaging for them, you need to know what is that ticks for them. Medical, maybe some of them don't have children, so it's not something that is ticking. Retirement, they will retire when they retire. So for now, they need the money now. And
Yeah.
but one thing that also make them different from us, the more risk takers. They they
Yeah.
they
Mm.
make very risky decision at a split second. And some of them, at least the group that I was with, are also looking at investments. For us, I think growing up, investment perhaps was not that conversation that you're having so much, maybe little here and there. But now these people are looking at this money that I could be putting in another fund, I could be growing it while I'm seeing it. So for me, when it comes to the workplace, the organization also needs to be very agile in how they look at that, especially on the different age sets. What is it that will make this person want to stay here longer? What can we bring to the table to ensure that they're happy? Because the happiness comes in on a short period of time. After 2, 3 years, they want to leave. So even 1 year, one shocked me. 1 year, I'm good. I've done what I needed to do, and I need to move on to the next. Uh, so organizations really need to be agile in that area and put in people of that age maybe in some of the meetings so that you can get perspective of what is it that they're looking for, so that when you're bringing out programs, it's a more inclusive and they're feeling part of it. Yeah, so that when it comes to the more formal one. The informal one is your managers. As we get into organization, and you can also really identify one of those managers who are really looking, who can really guide you within the paths. And maybe bringing a small story here. You said this is an open space that you can be able to talk. So I was reading this book with my book club by Sheryl Sandberg. It's about leaning. Sure, some of you might have read it. And she has dedicated one chapter on mentorship, and it's about who is your mentor. Can you guys hear me? You're all
Yes,
frozen.
yes. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay,
Following you. Yeah. Yeah, we're here.
cool. So, so now this chapter starts very interestingly. It starts with a bird that has found itself in a nest, so it has hatched, and so he looks around. There's no mother, so he gets out and go around to look for the mother. So he finds a dog, he finds a cow, he finds a kitten, and he's asking, "Are you my mother?" And they'll say, of course, no. So he gets desperate and he goes around and finds a car and a plane and is asking, "Are you my mother?" And of course, they're not the mother. So he was lucky enough to have been picked by a shovel and put back to the nest. So when it's at the nest, the mother flies in and he looks at the mother and like, "Yeah, you are a bird. You must be my mother, or you are my mother." So what am I trying to say here? When it comes to mentorship, also within the workspace, don't go just looking for anybody. Look at that person who is
Mm.
within that line that you're looking at. So it's easy for them to infer or bring the knowledge down to you, transfer the knowledge. For instance, Joyce is in finance and now she's in leadership. If you are predominantly a marketer and you want to grow within the marketing space, then look at someone who is within, who can understand what your journey is all about. It's easier that way to get into that mentorship space. So for me, that is how I look at it when it comes to the workplace. It has to be
Mm.
intentional from the organization
Mm.
to the leadership on how to shape it.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And I like what you said that there's the formal structures, and many organizations have the formal mentorship programs that they are running now. They may not necessarily be for women. It may be an organization wide. And then I know there are
Yeah.
some organizations. I have some clients that have specific mentorship programs for women that are designed to support women. And really, it's about creating a program that speaks to the people that you are trying to support. When we create something for people and they're not involved in thinking through what it looks like, then yes, they're going to be less excited about the finished product. So I think any organization that's looking to start a mentorship program should really start by hearing from the mentees themselves around what it is they'd be looking for in mentorship. I think that's a really, really key perspective. And then I think when it comes to the informal mentorship, like you said, it's really important to look for someone who is in some way aligned to you or where you want to go, because you are more more likely to connect with each other. And I think that's really useful. So thank you very much for that, Lucy. I just want to hear your perspective as well, and Joyce, I'll come to you after this. Looking at it from an organizational perspective, what is the role, and maybe anything you want to add to what Eunice said. What
Yeah,
is the role that mentorship can take in
yeah, yeah.
developing the people, in retaining the people? Because to Eunice's earlier point, what people want in the workplace now is different, right? So
Totally
whereas
different. True.
before people were looking for specific things, is mentorship one of those things that would then draw people to an organization? Yeah, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Amazing story by Eunice, by the way. I loved it all through and very relatable. And so, if you look at just going back to the example that Eunice also shared of their book club, and the younger folks, slightly younger than us. So there's a need definitely to align in terms of the goals. Like, what are the goals of your younger professionals, and how does that goal align with the goals of the organization? And that way, the organization is not operating sort of like in a blind space or spot, because if you're intentionally structuring mentorship programs that are transparent, they're inclusive, they're accessible to all employees, and you're also curating the programs to be able to accommodate the different needs plus the diversity, then it means you're also getting to hear the voice of these younger professionals. And that way, from the get go, once you have that alignment, it means you're able to meet the needs of both parties. And one thing I've also noticed, because I also work with younger folks, is they really are looking for that career advancement, and they're
Mm,
quick to change jobs, and they don't care.
mm,
So what you need to do is also have some type of mentorship programs that are geared towards advancing and supporting that. And even as they're transitioning into different roles and they're thinking of changing their careers, how does mentorship come in to make sure that they're able to navigate these new experiences? So that way they feel a part of the process, and it ends up promoting a very good work culture. And you end up just
yeah,
boosting the morale, you boosting their confidence, and you find them sticking a bit longer than the 1 year, because they sort of like have a purpose, and there's
yeah.
and this you are able to establish right from the onset. And also from an
Mm,
organization perspective, at least it gives you visibility into what your workforce is interested in. And from an, I'd call it like risk mitigation succession planning perspective, as an
yeah,
organization, you already have eyes into your younger workforce generation, and you're sort of like
yeah,
also planning for that as well moving forward. Yeah.
yeah. I like that. I really like that. Um, it gives some stickability. Joyce, just finally, your reflections as we're talking about organizations and how can mentorship create a space where people want to stay? Can it help us to retain our staff and help them to grow, especially because we're celebrating International Women's Day, especially when it comes to women? Your thoughts on that, Joyce? Remember to
Thank
unmute. Yeah,
you.
great. You've got it.
I got it. I
Yes.
think just speaking to both what Eunice and Lucy have shared, I think what people don't realize is that mentorship is a very key aspect of succession, not just career growth outside the organization you're in. Maybe you want to jump from one sector to another sector, one level, but even within the same institution you're in, if you look at just things like promotions and you know going from one level to another very keenly, the aspect of mentorship, a closeness to your immediate supervisor, to your leader, to your department head, to your division head, plays a very critical role also in transferring that alignment of goals that Lucy had talked about. The institution has goals, the department has goals, the people you're working with as a team,
Mm,
there's an outcome that you're working towards. And so you find many times it's the person who best not just aligns but develops strategies towards those outcomes that gets to be the next, the next leader or the next guy in charge. So at a micro level, you can look at it like that. And I really put that succession aspect as a very key benefit of mentorship, and really following closely those who are ahead of you and those who would help you shape what your next steps as an individual or as a leader would look like. I think also, just to emphasize on what has been said, mentorship is a mutually benefiting process, both for the mentor and the mentee. And perspective and insight really is number one on that list. You'd be surprised how much you can learn from those who look up to you, simply because the world that you knew when you were their age or in their season or at their level has changed. There are newer ways of doing
Yeah.
things. There are newer ways of reasoning.
Yeah.
Even the culture around perhaps those spaces has changed. And so the benefit of this type of relationship is that you're co-creating strategies and solutions that will not only teach me something as Joyce, as the mentor, but also prepare my mentee to respond to the needs and the demands of their time. So yeah.
I love that. So very true. It is a mutually beneficial relationship, right? Everyone gets something positive out of the mentor-mentee relationship, both the mentee and the mentor. And I think that's really critical to underline and underscore that it's not a case of just take. I remember listening to a lady, very prominent figure who a lot of young people look up to, and she said there's someone who said to her that they'd like to have her as a mentor. And initially she was a little reticent because she just felt like she had a lot on her plate and she wasn't sure that she could take on mentoring someone at the time. And she says that this mentee made the mentor relationship so easy because they were intentional about finding themselves in the spaces and places where the mentor was. So they would, attend events that the mentor was in and then volunteer to support. So this mentorship is happening as this person is supporting the mentor. So, behaving as a gopher, whether it's running errands, helping to set up, whatever it was. And so the mentor found that this relationship was such a positive one. So she was so willing to give of herself because this individual was willing to give of themselves as well. And so I think when we approach the relationship, both parties with that view to give of ourselves, then we definitely have a more positive relationship. And what I'm hearing from all three of you is that within organizations, mentorship helps. Mentorship makes a difference. It supports. And I think to the point that was made earlier, people want to grow in their roles, and mentorship helps them to grow, can help them to grow. And so that's something that's very positive. So thank you very much for that, ladies. If anyone has a question, please, you are welcome to share it with us now, just whether you're watching on YouTube or you're on LinkedIn. Share your question in the comments and we will come to the questions that you have. So let's talk about mentorship and diversity and inclusion. Eunice, what is the role of mentorship in fostering diversity and inclusion in the workplace? Can organizations, or how can organizations overcome barriers such as unconscious bias and gender stereotypes to ensure a more equitable access to mentorship opportunities for women? Eunice, unmute yourself.
That's a good question.
There you go. Yes, yes.
Uh, so what I was saying is sometimes we tend to look for our mothers from the stories that I talked about. Somebody who's quite similar to you, and that would also mean you're a lady, look for a lady, a mentor. But statistics shows that the other gender also can really, really help you in propelling your career. And both ladies and gentlemen can be those sponsors who can be able to speak in spaces that you're not available. So for me, when we are looking at mentorship at the career at the workplace, um, allowing both genders to intermingle, it's very, very important without making it awkward, because sometimes people tend to overthink around that area, because mentorship sometimes, especially at the workplace, or even it's normally beyond your working hours. You might find yourself going on a Saturday or in the evening to do some of those discussions, if you really need to have some discussions being done without the shadowing kind of a work. So we need to demystify that mentoring space so that it's easy. Joyce talked about putting a space that is open and easy to operate around. So organizations also need to now look at that. How do you ensure that the two genders commingle, especially when it comes to beyond the normal working projects, for lack of a better word? And I'm also very passionate about the younger generation coming up. We need to provide spaces for them to be able to come and talk about their challenges or the areas that needs to be helped in. Because if you open up, remember we talked about the EQ and being open, basically, for one to be able to talk to you and being empathetic around that area. So opening that area and not bringing that, how do you call it, hard start, your face and your verbal, all those things that can make somebody not be open enough to come and talk to you. So for me, leaders need to have that open-mindedness and bring out, remember we've talked about evolving, the people who are coming behind us are different from the way we were thinking. Some of us, maybe the people we used to emulate, were very professional, the way they look at things, their offices, perhaps the ones who had offices locked. So getting in first, you have to second guess yourself. Do I need to go in? What will I say? So with that mentality, as we now cascade this downwards, we need to have an open plan.
Ooh, it looks like we've lost Eunice again.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, the stuff she was sharing was just so insightful, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I like what she said around making it comfortable in organizations for mentorship to happen across genders. I think that's a really powerful thought, because we often just shy away from it, right? So we will have a program for women, and we're saying we're mentoring women because we want them to grow into leadership, but then they
Mm,
will only be mentored by other women. And I guess it's because, from an organization perspective, there's
yeah.
a fear that, when we have men mentoring, maybe there could be some lines that are crossed. And yet, the young women who are coming up are missing out on the insights they would gain from men, right?
Yeah.
Because they are important insights that you gain from men. I was having a conversation with a friend recently, and she was telling me she was talking to her friend, a gentleman, and he was saying the problem with these International Women's Day celebrations and the spaces that you have as women is that you're by yourselves as women. You're not bringing us as men to come and share our perspective. And so I really like that point that Eunice made. And if you are in an organization and you have a mentorship program, I think it would be useful to just really reflect around how men can get involved in mentoring women, because I think there's something that men can teach young women that will
Mm,
help them in their
absolutely.
careers. And so I think that's a really, really a great point that she made there around that. So hopefully she will join us back. It's such a shame when we have challenges in terms of the internet. So let's talk about some tips. I always think it's important that this conversation not just be theoretical, but it be practical, right? So let's get practical. Let's talk about action steps. So I'm a young woman, let's say, and I want to get a mentor, but I'm hesitant. I don't know how to approach someone. I don't even know where to get started. Can we give some tips? Joyce, can I come to you first? What advice do you give to someone who says, okay, I like what you're saying about mentorship, and I can see how it would be really useful for me as I grow in my career, but I don't even know where to get started. So, what basic tips can you give someone who is maybe feeling a little unsure or shy about getting started with mentorship? Bruce, let me start with you, and then Lucy, I'll come to you for the same.
I think just adding to what Eunice was saying as my first point would be to one understand, especially as women, um, opportunities are not readily available to us in a way that is easy and convenient. And so we need to get out of our comfort zone in understanding that even the other gender is able to provide solutions and able to guide you in a way that is very meaningful to your own journey. I think we really underestimate how willing people are in supporting us and helping us in our career and personal journey. I think that probably has been a testament of my own journey, reaching out to people personally, engaging those around me. It's shocking to see how willing people are to actually help you. And so stepping out of your comfort zone is number one. And I think an aspect that really supports that is pursuing excellence. If there's an element of excellence that you've identified in an individual in a particular area or with a particular, just the way they are, the way they carry themselves, or with the aspect of your life that you would want to enhance, then go for it because it is excellence that is driving you. It's not so much their gender or their appearance or, the things that you would otherwise find some sort of common ground on, but it's their ability to do what they do and be how they want to be in an excellent and appealing way. And the second thing I would say in identifying a mentor is to look at what you have around you. I think many times we go outside of our resources, the low hanging fruits, the things that are readily available, and people who are readily available to us, and try find this abstracts or um, person who you feel like would be perfect. But for me, if there's something that has really played an important role, is the people and the resources that are already readily available to me, who have the experience to give me the guidance, the support, the advice, and sometimes even act as the link between me and the opportunity or the solution that I'm looking for. And so I'd tell people to sit down, assess who's around you. And sometimes it's as simple as, your dad's friend or your mom's friend or your uncle, your auntie, your cousin. See where they are, see what they're doing in life, and see if you can tap into that resource, as a place of knowledge and wisdom, or even as a space where you can step in briefly and let it be a guiding stone to where you want to go. And then the last thing I would say is perhaps to the younger individual, we're in an age of social media. And I think this has really redefined what mentorship looks like. Simply because there are many content creators and people with very niched backgrounds. You can go on a YouTube channel of someone who's only speaking of, hello? Sorry, I dropped off for a second. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
All right.
Yes, we can hear
Yeah, so
you.
you can
We
go
can hear
on
you.
several, platforms. All right, thank you. So you can go on several platforms, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and you can find individuals who have a wealth of knowledge in very specific areas. And, I think this tells us that mentorship goes beyond that um, localized interaction, and that you can engage very meaningfully with someone who is abroad, oceans away, or in your neighborhood or whatever, but through that availability of knowledge on the internet, across various social media platforms. And so I think those for me were the first, I'd say, ways I'd find a mentor and identify someone who, I'd like to learn more from. And I think even at a basic level, I think a mentor is someone who you first admire. I am known for just going out there and reaching out to someone, even a person who I may not know, and engage them in one way or another. And I think with finding a mentor, also, we need to understand that mentorship doesn't have to be a 1 year thing or 2 year thing. You can actually have a 45 minutes coffee with someone, and that is mentorship in and of itself. You gain so much from that kind of interaction. So yeah, I think maybe that speaks to also in appreciating every moment you get with someone who you admire or you look up to, and consider those moments as opportunities for you to gain insight, and that's mentorship, because you're applying those ideas and those insights and their own experiences into your own journey. So yeah, I think those are the ways I find mentors, and those are the ways I also would categorize the kind of interactions I have as mentorship. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I really love the tips you shared. Very practical. And I like what you said about, looking around you and seeing the people you admire or someone who's doing something well. So that means if you are watching this and you think Joyce herself spoke very well, you can just reach out to her and say, "Hey, Joyce, I really love the way you articulated yourself on that IQ Lunch and Learn. Could I have a 45-minute coffee with you?" And mentorship can happen right there. And, I think you're so right that look around you to see who is around you, who are the low hanging fruits that you could engage with, people who have, achieved some of the things that you're trying to achieve. I think that's really great. And, don't feel limited. Social media means that you can cross oceans and still have a mentor. So thank you very much, Joyce, for those really awesome tips. Eunice, we're talking about tips. How can I get started? If I've heard about mentorship and I think, wow, this is really cool. I've never really thought about mentorship this way, or I've never really realized how powerful mentorship can be, but I don't know where to start. I'm shy, I'm unsure. What advice would you give? So, Eunice, let me come to you and find out what advice you would give. I think you've now logged in with your device. Apologies for the drama you've had today with connection. I think it's been one of those days, but we've learned, right?
Um,
The insights have been coming thick and fast, and that's the most important thing. So, Eunice, go ahead.
I was determined to stay here. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. Now, tips on how to get mentors. So, what Joyce has said is quite crucial. Look around you who you admire, and those will give you a low-lying fruits for sure on how to start up.
Mm,
And for me, other things that I've done is I joined an organization or association that foster
mm,
that as one of their pillars, and that is Women on Boards. So
yeah,
that is one area again that
right.
they help ladies to grow within that space. And I was lucky to get into a cohort. So it is a group mentorship, a cohort that we were paired, I think, 3 years ago, and the program was supposed to run for 6 months. Up to now, we're still meeting every month, and it has been profound for us. The four of us have grown, including our mentors. And our mentor normally tells us that what we've been discussing, it's both sides. Both sides are benefit from it. She's benefiting from us, and we're benefiting from them, and it grows. I remember, Lucy, you mentioned about it's involving, and sometimes it starts from the career and the leadership bit, and it involves to other spectrum of life. It involves to your finances. How
Yeah.
do you handle that as you grow? It goes to your spirituality. How are you in that space? Because at the end of the day, we need a total
Mm,
person for you to be able to grow even within
yeah.
your career. So looking into that, looking
Yeah.
at your space and going into formal areas where you can be able to meet those like-minded people. Remember what I told you about the story, and that still runs into my mind. Where are you, my mother? That thing really, whenever I'm now looking at that space of mentorship, I look at that. Where do I find these people who are similar to me, who are looking at the things that I want to do? And that is the space that you need to go to. It's an easy and low-lying fruit, as Joyce had mentioned.
Mm, I like that. So I like the idea of looking at formal um, networks as well. I think as an opportunity because someone may say that it's easy to say look around you. Earlier when Joyce was talking, she talked about maybe your mother's friend or your uncle
Mhm.
or aunt and your cousin. But there's some people maybe who don't have those positive relationships in terms of their family, right? And so
Yeah.
someone's thinking, well, you know what? I'm looking around me and there isn't really anyone that I could say, okay, this person's going to be my mentor. So you can, as Eunice just said, go into formal networks, and in those networks, then build those relationships. And I too am a member of the Women on Boards Network, and it has, as a network, been a really great platform to be in. I haven't participated in the mentorship program that Eunice talks about, but I've had very good feedback about it. And so I like what you said that something that was meant to be a journey of 6 months has ended up being a 3-year relationship as you get mentorship from the mentor that was assigned to you, as well as from each other as mentees, right? So you're doing peer mentorship as well. And so if you feel that you don't have people around you who within your current network would be great mentors for you, then you can look for networks like the Women on Boards Network where they provide mentorship and you can go that route. So thank you very much for that, Eunice. Lucy, let me come to you. Tips for getting started with mentorship. What would you add to
Yeah.
what has been said?
Probably if also to bring in transparency into the entire process and trying to open up a mentorship or start a mentorship relationship rather, at times you also need to be open to rejection, you know, and it's okay, it's totally normal. You know, you might reach out to an individual who probably is not ready or available to serve as a mentor at that particular point in time. It doesn't mean you're lesser, so you need to be open to these rejections occasionally, and it's good that we have different forums and platforms where you can be able to seek mentorship. So getting that feeling of, you know, I'm not able to support you at this moment in time should not deter you or make you second guess yourself. So what it just means is probably this is a journey and that is not the right time for you to be able to pair up with that particular mentor or mentee. So you continue to access the different platforms or different avenues available, but you never give up. It's a journey.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a critical thing you've added, right? That there can be a no, and that's okay. So be ready for the fact that rejection can come and don't take it personally, right? It just means that that wasn't a right fit at that time. And don't let it
Exactly.
deter you from seeking additional mentors. I really like that because I think, if someone gets started, they could very much be demoralized by hearing someone say, no, you know what? I'm not able to mentor you. And I think this also goes to the point that Joyce made earlier that sometimes when we're looking for mentors, we don't have to look for a 1 year, 2-year relationship. We can look for a 45-minute coffee because sometimes a person feels as though I can't mentor you because they're thinking, I don't have time to do something for the next 1 year, right? And yet, if it's just a coffee, you might find someone's available for a coffee. And in a coffee, they could provide, some insights, some perspectives that would be of benefit to you. But then just not willing to commit to a long-term relationship. So I think that's a really great point that you shared there, Lucy. So we are very quickly coming to the end of our time. I'm always amazed at how quickly the time goes. As I say, when you're having fun, time flies. Ladies, I'm going to come to you for your parting shot shortly, but I am just going to check with our audience and find out if anyone has any questions. So if you have a question, now is the time to ask it. Please put your question in the comments. I'm going to ask you a question, ladies, that is on my mind as I wait to see if anyone else has a question. We've talked about your roles as a mentee. So, pretty much most of our conversation has been um, looking at it from the mentee perspective. I'd like to hear from the mentor perspective. And my assumption is you are all mentors in some shape or form. We mentioned how this mentee mentorship relationship, mentee mentor relationship is mutually beneficial. So, what have you gotten out of mentoring others? So, what has been the benefit to you when you are a mentor? I know earlier we talked about this reverse mentorship and how you can learn from people, but I just wanted to come back to that, to those who are mentors, to just hear from any of you who'd like to answer. What have you seen as the benefit now when you've extended yourself as a mentor? Anyone want to answer that? You're welcome to answer as I look out for any questions that may come. If you do have any questions, we have a minute more before I go around for our parting shots. So do feel free to reach out. Anyone want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I'll share from personal experience, and probably
Mm,
it's from mentoring
yes,
a
please.
someone younger, and getting to really understand and get a peek into their thought process and how they make decisions and navigate through the daily, life challenges, be it at the workplace or out of the workplace. But most importantly for me, I have taken that, feedback back to my workplace and sort of like try to utilize the same type of approach when
Mm,
interacting with younger people that are in my team that I'm managing. So most of the time, I'll see sort of like similarities going back to, I think, something that Eunice earlier said, risk taking, being a bit vocal, being flexible, and sort of like trying to reduce, being a bit also flexible and to be more in tune with how they think through things, definitely within certain limits and confines, but it's really coming handy in helping me with my relationships with the younger people in my team that I manage. So
mm,
certain things will happen and I'll be like, okay, that sounds familiar, or I've seen that somewhere. So probably this is,
yeah,
we are going
yeah,
through this. And sort of like make
yeah,
it a bit
yeah.
easy to navigate those type of situations. Yeah. And it's really been interesting to see that play out. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a really great comment. So your mentee actually has trained you in a way, supported you, coached you in how to interact with others who are that you're leading, who are similar in terms of how they come across. So thank you for that. I don't see any questions today. Looks like we have a quiet audience with us today. Perhaps they're just reflecting on the insights that you're sharing. As I always say, if you bring the lunch, we will bring the learning. There's been so much learning today. So allow me to just really appreciate my guests and thank you so much, especially Eunice and Joyce. You had your technical issues and you still persisted in being here and being present. How much we appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here. I want to come around and get your parting shot. What's your final thought for a woman out there who is reflecting on the power of mentorship to be able to grow, to be able to thrive, to be able to achieve her big, hairy, audacious goals? Lucy, I'll start with you. What's your final
Yeah.
reflection?
I would say be patient and flexible along the process. Understanding that mentorship is a dynamic and evolving process, and
Mm,
really requires patience, flexibility, and adaptability as well. So be
mm,
patient
mm,
with yourself and your mentor, and
mhm.
as you navigate the challenges and setbacks and changes that come along the way. It's a journey. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Be patient. It's a journey. And you know, the powerful thing about thinking about mentorship as a journey is that you're not focused on the destination. You're focused on enjoying the actual process itself.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Joyce, your final reflection?
Oh wow, I'd have so much to say for a final reflection. But I believe for the high achieving woman or individual, really it cuts across. I think mentorship really allows us to redefine what success and the path to success looks like. Growing up, we hear things like it takes a village to raise a child. I'd like to think the community aspect of growth and achieving positive outcomes still requires community. And so it takes a village even at each level, mentors, sponsors, and that spectrum of definition to propel you to the next step. I think in your early years, that support is provided for you in your schools, in your churches and the likes. But I think in your early years and in your mid career, it takes a level of intentionality to seek that kind of community that will propel you forward. I also want to say, as a parting shot, that the word mentor and the idea of mentorship is really thrown around so much. It's a popular thing. It's an in thing, and sometimes it really waters down just the essence and the
Oh, looks like we've lost Joyce again.
Yeah.
Can you
and
guys
so
still
I'd
hear
say
me?
that they can hear me.
Okay.
You can hear me.
Yeah. Okay, you're
Yes,
back.
we can hear
Yeah.
you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'd add that there's no person who's achieved the impossible without having a benchmark. And a benchmark can actually serve as a mentor. Just the fact that there was someone before you who could go into a place that was previously unachievable can really set the
Yeah.
foundation
Yeah.
for you to do so much more. And I'd say with the
Yeah.
aspect of growth and just finding yourself and finding what your purpose in this world is, mentorship plays a very key role in helping you organize your thoughts. I'm going to add a quote, or it's just something that my father likes to tell me. It's that a good teacher will show you where to look, but will not tell you what to see. And I think that's the beauty of mentorship. A teacher who will show you this is the direction, but you need to own it and you need to create a path that is unique to you, that you can appreciate fully, and you will feel like, this has been your journey. So,
Yeah.
yes, those are the few
Fantastic.
nuggets and points I can share.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Joyce. I like that last point that you said, what your dad says. Show you where to look, but not tell you what to see. Very powerful. Eunice, final reflection as we
Yeah,
wrap
I
up.
think, yeah. Um, just as Lucy said, mentorship is a journey and it can start from anywhere. So for me, I would encourage people to start from wherever they are, whatever age it is, even when you're in school. And I talked about our mentorship group that we've been together from the women's on board. It's called Almasi. So we are now looking into tapping into the schools now to start it early, especially the young lady who sometimes really maybe does not have a good guidance on how to navigate. So starting from the school and growing them into their career. So when you start early, you get more perspective earlier in life. And even if you're older, I think it
Yeah.
can start at any point. So thing is,
Yes.
start, be intentional about it. But another thing that I need
Yeah.
to also bring on board is I read this yesterday and I was so heartbroken about still mentorship. A lady had posted about her, she wanted to pivot and start a new career. And she went out seeking mentors on different platforms. And there is one that she was really, really rooting for to get on board with her. And when they had a conversation, the person really diluted what she came out with. She made her feel like she was not ready, she was not um, prepared for whatever she wanted to do. She still, really made her feel very little around that thing. So again,
Mhm.
as we seek that guidance, you need to be very careful who you're talking to, because some people can also
Yeah.
kill your mojo. As you're
Mm.
going out, listen
Yeah.
to those cues and ensure that you're riding with the people who are riding with you, not people who are feeling
Mm.
threatened that you come to their space and take their space.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my two parting shots. Be careful who you're also putting in your space, and it's never late to start. Start.
I like that. So it's never too early and it's never too late to start. And just do
Yeah.
your due diligence and have some wisdom in terms of who it is you're reaching out for a mentor. Ladies,
Mm.
thank you so much. You guys have been phenomenal. There is so much insight that we have gained from this conversation. And as I always say every month, I just love having these conversations. And so thank you very much, Lucy. Thank you very much, Eunice. Thank you very much, Joyce, for your great insights. You've heard it from them, and I will just echo the sentiments they've shared. Mentorship is a critical thing for you if you are looking to grow professionally, because your mentors support you in that growth and encourage you. They can become your cheerleaders, but they also tell you how things really are. So thank you so much, ladies. I'm going to say goodbye at this time. Really appreciated having you here on this program. We're delighted, as always, to have the conversation. Thank you for joining us. I think you can agree with me that we brought the learning. I hope that you enjoyed your lunch and really looking forward to same conversation around emotional intelligence and how it supports us on a day-to-day basis. As I always say, emotional intelligence is not just another skill that you need to add to the plate. It is the plate upon which all other skills lie. You heard it from the ladies. Emotional intelligence will help you to have a more positive mentorship relationship. So thank you for joining me once again. Until next month, have a fabulous Easter that's coming up ahead. Enjoy the season, and let's remember the reason for the season. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us. See you